Imagine the very energy that you keep trying to repress, to resist, might be the greatest power you will ever possess. What if your frustration and restlessness aren't practical weaknesses, but signals of great energy that's just untapped? Untamed energy might allow you to create the life you want, not just dream of. The truth is, hidden beneath the noise of contemporary life, there is a flowing current, a creative energy so strong it can alter your destiny when you learn to flow with it. For thousands of years, thinkers, psychologists, and philosophers have asked, what makes a man rise above the dreary mediocrity of modern social life? What makes a man build a fortune, compose a symphony, instigate a revolution, and leave a legacy that resonates through all time, while other men drift off into the haze of instant gratification, cynicism, and regret? The answer is not simply discipline or talent. It is not solely ambition or opportunity. It is something older and more primal, universal, raw, elemental energy we all have access to as human beings. Unlike wealth, status, and privilege, energy is available to every man alive. The tragedy is that most never learn how to harness it. They will leak it away in endless cycles of distraction. They will squander it away onto fleeting pleasures. They provide it with customized serotonin and empty avoidance moments. However, there is another way. This is the practice of sexual transmutation, the conscious practice of altering your primal energy into an energy that can translate into discipline, creativity, direction, and legacy. Today, you are going to learn exactly how to experience this hidden energy evolution. Step by step, you will learn how to harness this ancient practice that has revitalized visionaries and historical movers, and you will be able to apply it to create a life that is worthy of what you are capable of. Let's get started. The hidden energy inside of you, deep down inside of you, layers below every impulse and layer of conditioning exists a force as old as humanity. This force is sexual energy. This is the most primal drive that ensured the survival of our species. But if you look deeper, you will observe that it is also the creative force behind the civilizations we now occupy. The timeless art that inspires beauty, as well as the drive men put forth to achieve things go beyond the limits of ambition. Most people understand sexual energy to only represent the primal instinct of human desire. However, this is merely the most superficial expression. Sexual energy is far more than the desire to connect or reproduce. It is the nature of creation itself, raw, unpredictable, and limitless presence that either burns you to ashes or elevates you higher than anything you could. For many men, this energy is a slighted property to be avoided. It's a burden or a distraction that needs to be quickly satisfied or entirely suppressed. But the reality is sexual energy isn't an opponent and isn't a curse. Sexual energy is a gift. If you are willing to see this gift clearly, you will see it as the most valuable fuel for transforming your life and yourself you will ever have. To put this in perspective, every time you strive for, or even just think about satisfying a craving for desire, you are coming in contact with the highest concentrated form of life force you possess. Every drop of life force that is wasted can leave you feeling restless, ambiguous, and empty. Yet, when you don't waste this life force, you can use it as the source of your focus, confidence, and ambition. There are many men in history who have done great things who were not devoid of desires. They were not protected by some biological immunity. They simply knew how to harness desire. They learned how to take what most men would apply as a disadvantage and use it for discipline, creativity, and power. This is why Napoleon Hill, after 25 years of studying the most successful men of his generation, concluded that sexual energy is the greatest of all human desires and the most misunderstood. He found that those who could utilize this energy in their work and with their purpose accomplished levels of genius and achievement that bordered on the superhuman, while others who could never learn to master sexual energy wasted their lives endlessly revolving in cycles of regret, addiction, and lost potential. But this isn't just historical theory. Modern science backs it. Research on dopamine, testosterone, and the neurobiology of arousal demonstrates that when you conserve your energy and use it to pursue productive goals, your brain is sharper, more efficient, and resilient. Your nervous system adapts to tension, and you can delay gratification beyond what others can hardly comprehend. In other words, you develop the mental fortitude to keep going even when everyone else quits. You generate the maximum condition for deep work, creative insight, and relentless execution. Anyway, with all we have learned above, you would expect few men will ever commit to harness the mastery of this hidden power. Instead, they will spend years, in fact, lifetimes, numbing this sexual energy with porn, meaningless hookups, and dopaminergically infinite stimulation. They never pause to think about what would happen if they chose to conserve their energy and harness it. The results of this neglect are visible all around us. You see it in the epidemic of low self-esteem, in the rise of addiction and depression, in the millions who feel aimless and powerless. When you give your sexual energy dominion over you, you become a slave to your impulses, exchanging your sovereignty for something fleeting, for a few moments of relief. You trade the possibility of greatness for the certainty of comfort. But it doesn't have to be this way. When you first understand that sexual energy is creative energy, everything will shift. You will begin to recognize that every time you feel that tension build up inside you, it is not simply an opportunity to get relief, but an invitation to create, to build, to push back on what you have settled for. As if being relieved of this burden justifies the wasted potential to unlock the creative energy. Instead of considering, how can I relieve myself of this feeling, you will ask, how can I express this creative energy in a productive way? When you ask that question, you will set yourself apart in a class of men that will be so rare, your peers will not understand you. They will simply wonder how you have so much drive. They will see you growing while they stay stuck. It's not magic, it's mastery. When you are committed to seeing your energy for what it is, you stop fighting yourself. You stop trying to suppress your nature and instead elevate it. You start training your body and mind to hold tension, to metabolize the energy into fuel, to rise instead of collapse. This is the groundwork of self-respect. Because the truth is, every time you give in to cheap relief, you tell yourself, I am not capable of anything more. But every time you choose to hold your energy, to transmute it, to channel it into a valuable pursuit, you are showing yourself that you are worthy of your potential. Over time, practice becomes a new identity. You stop seeing yourself as a man who must chase satisfaction. You begin to see yourself as a creator, builder, and a leader. You develop a quiet confidence that no one can give you and no one can take away from you. That is why the first part of any journey of transformation will be simply acknowledging the hidden force within yourself. To stop pretending it doesn't exist. To stop thinking it is only a weakness. It truly is nothing short of the key to your greatest potential. In the following sections, you will learn exactly how to wield this power, step by step, and how to use it in your work, your relationships, and your legacy. But now, remember this, you have everything you need. The question is, will you use it? The formula of sexual transmutation. Napoleon Hill's research into the greatest and most accomplished men identified something surprising because he learned their success rested on our most primal and personal energy, sexual energy. After interviewing hundreds of inventors, industrialists, entrepreneurs, presidents, and great magnates, Hill found a secret few are careful to acknowledge. They did not consume their impulses. They channeled or transmuted their impulses. Transmutation, which is what Hill called this process. Transmutation, in simple terms, means to change the form or nature of something. When he speaks of transmuting sexual energy, he identified the power of the brain and body and transmuting it to a higher form of energy, creativity, ambition, legacy. But how does it work, exactly? As with many things in life, the first step in sexual transmutation is to notice or become aware of it. You cannot transmute what you are unwilling to see. Most of us men live unconsciously. Every time we experience some form of arousal, we respond automatically to that arousal by seeking a release, gazing for novelty in some experience, or numbing the discomfort with something else. If you are serious about transmutation, then your first step is to learn to pause. Anytime you experience desire, conceptualize it as a transient spike in energy. Instead of immediately acting on it or repelling it, you are holding it. You are letting it build. You remind yourself that the discomfort that you feel is not your enemy, it is your fuel. This is where many people drop off, Because holding energy requires emotional fortitude. It requires you to bear the tension without providing a reaction. Layer of power is born. You start to prove to yourself that you cannot be defined by your biology. You are able to choose. And from this place of conscious holding, you then redirect the energy. Transmutation is not suppression. It is channeling. Think of this as inserting a hot wire into a piece of equipment that can actually utilize the energy. As an example, if you are an entrepreneur, you can take that energy and push in harder into your business. If you are an artist, you could turn that into art. If you are an athlete, you can use it to help your training. But instead of diffusing your energy and pretty much just enjoying a quick spurts of pleasure, you're just focusing it into something productive and meaningful. This skill eventually helps your nervous system link desire with creating instead of consuming. This is the point where the chain of events becomes clear. Awareness. The impulse rises in you. You recognize it and label it. Containment. You allow the impulse to build without releasing it yet. Redirection. You take it to a specific activity that is tied to your individual purpose. Hill insisted that this was not optional for anyone aspiring to greatness. He referred to sexual energy as the greatest of all human desires, and said that sexual desire creates more action intervals, both constructive and destructive, than any other desire. Hill also cautioned that when you do not transmute those energies, they almost always lead to regret. Because when you allow your life energy to be wasted, you are left with a dull pain caused by wasted potential. Modern neuroscience supports this view. Allowing retention and/or removal of the unnecessary release of your sexual impulses creates a stronger sensitivity in your dopamine receptors. The crosswire synapses increases your baseline engagement and motivation. You begin to feel a clarity that seems absent in a world of arousal and instant gratification. This is why elite performers, from elite athletes through visionary founders, often have periods of abstinence during anything important, from projects to intense physical training cycles. They instinctively know that managing their energy allows them to put it into their craft. But transmutation is not simply a form of abstinence. It is an act of integration. You do not deny your desire. You refine it. You teach yourself to take every outburst as an opportunity to redirect energy and get stronger, sharper, and more dedicated. This is the secret that only few will ever find. Because it is submerged in giving in, favoring the path of least resistance, escaping into the world of easy, pleasurable deeds. But to live a real life, you have to build the discipline to manage your energy, the vision to put it into worthy ventures, both in your being as well as your work. Remember, every man feels desire. Every man knows lust. What delineates the average from the overachiever is not the absence of lust, it is the action to do something greater with it. This is the blueprint of sexual transmutation, easy to grasp, hard to do. Clarity of practice and boundless transformation. If you can learn dominion over the process, you will be able to create a level of vitality and purpose most will never engage in. Sublimation and creative alchemy in psychology. For centuries, the greatest minds have repeatedly asked themselves how to take raw, visceral energy and turn it into something refined. Sigmund Freud has a name for this process. He called it sublimation. Sublimation is the latent alchemy through which primal urges become art, inspired action, performance, and leadership. Freud argued that every human being has powerful urges, sexual, aggressive, and emotional, that will never fully be given room to be expressed by society. If you deny these impulses, however, they do not go away. They are only building pressure behind the scenes. Like steam in a sealed canister, this is where most people take the fatal wrong turn. They either submit to their impulses and become possessed by them, or they repress them only to explode later on with thoughtless destructiveness. Sublimation offers a third option. Instead of suppressing or indulging, you aim to intentionally direct the energy in a different option. You transmute the impulse. Think about a sculptor full of a desire that thrusts him to the edge of satisfaction. Instead of seeking to relieve the desire, he transfers that tension into chipping marble for 12 straight hours. Or a composer that channels that longing into symphonic compositions of music that transcends centuries. Or a young entrepreneur who takes his frustrated restlessness and births a company that disrupts the traditional business model. These are not fantasies. These are the truths of sublimation. Freud held that civilization itself functions based on this principle. Without sublimation, there are no cathedrals, no art, no science, no civilization, only instinct and chaos. Every magnificent creation you have ever admired came from someone deciding to devote their desire to something higher. This is what makes sexual transmutation so powerful. It is sublimation in its purest form. Instead of fearing your sexual energy, or letting it control you, you view it as an energy source. You respect it, you contain it, you give it purpose. Then you have awareness. You notice the familiar tension arising in your body. You feel the charge in your nervous system. Instead of acting unconsciously reaching for your screen, or whatever your mindless distraction is, you don't automatically indulge that instinct. You pause, you breathe. You remind yourself that the energy is neither good nor bad, only powerful. Then the question is, what do you want to do with it? If you have a mission that gets you excited, the answer is obvious. You pick up your tools, you sit and write, train, build, lead. You take that energy to create and to make things that are lasting. This pattern of behavior will change your identity over time. You will no longer see yourself as a man who needs to be gratified at all times. You will instead see yourself as a creator, a builder of meaningful things. What is happening here psychologically is that everything shifts. Your brain starts associating desire with purpose, rather than momentary relief. Your body realizes it can hold tension without collapsing. Your spirit grows stronger, because you are no longer afraid of your own ability. This is why sublimation is sometimes described as the art of turning longing into legacy. It is neither repression, leaving you brittle and ashamed, nor indulgence, leaving you spent and regretful. It is a disciplined effort to convert energy into impact. In contemporary society, this effort is needed more than ever. We live in a world flooded with hyperstimulation, where companies seek to profit from your weakness, and distractions are developed to hijack your focus. If you do not start to learn to transmute and sublimate, you will spend your life in repetitive cycles of consumption and shame. But with this knowledge and emotional tools, you become almost invincible. Your energy doesn't leak away through innumerable impulse-compulsive gratifications. It builds, it pressures, and pushes you towards greatness. Sublimation is not always a sexy thing. It takes bravery to sit in discomfort. It takes vision to remember what you're building. But the paybacks are permanent. Clarity, resilience, and the knowledge that you choose to become greater than your most base instincts every day. This is the psychology of creative alchemy. It is choosing to turn your inner flame into light, to take subtle and unrefined primal forces within and convert them into something immaterial and timeless. When you commit to this practice and sweat it out, you will find a level of power that no one can give you or take away. Reprogramming your brain and taking back your energy. Modern neuroscience is providing us with insight into why sexual transmutation and sublimation are so impactful. They are not just abstract ideas, they are in fact rooted in the biology of your brain and nervous system. Most people have no idea that every time they run towards instant gratification, they are training their neural pathways to look for shortcuts and rewards. When you indulge in pornography, mindless scrolling, or recreational release, your brain adapts to seek those pleasures. Your dopamine receptors downregulate, your hedonic set point increases, and you become less sensitive to normative pleasure. And that is why so many men today feel flat, anxious, and unmotivated. They overloaded their reward circuits and now nothing is exciting anymore. Their desire to create, achieve, and construct slowly burns off under the onslaught of cheap dopamine. But there is another way. A way to reprogram your brain and let you reclaim your ability to concentrate deeply and feel genuine satisfactions. The work starts with awareness. You have to start noticing how your patterns shape what you are becoming. Every time you choose momentary pleasure, you are reinforcing a neural circuit to perpetuate weakness. Every time you restrain your energy and direct it toward a higher purpose, you reinforce a new system, that of discipline, patience, and meaning. Neuroscientists refer to this process as neuroplasticity. Your brain is constantly changing based on what you do, think, and feel. So there's a warning and an opportunity here. If you keep indulging, you are wiring yourself for distraction and dependency. If you begin to transmute, you are wiring yourself for purpose and mastery. One of the strongest ways to begin this rewiring process is through intentional cessation, taking a prescribed period of time to refrain from all forms of compulsive release. After 30 days of no porn and casual gratification, you could completely reset your dopamine receptors. You will find that your motivation will start to come back. You will find your energy comes back. You will start to feel alive again. But cessation is not enough. The real transformation happens when you transform that energy. Instead of simply avoiding your old habits, you actively choose where your life force is going. When you feel the familiar flutter of desire, you do not simply ignore or repress it. You use it as a signal. Instead of reaching for your phone or fantasizing, you take action. Instead of reaching for your phone or daydreaming, you do something. You open your journal and write. You lift weights. You work on your business and other endeavors. You practice a skill. This is the discipline of redirection. At first, it will feel unnatural. You will have to fight the urge to slip back into your old habits. But if you persevere, you will notice an amazing thing. Your brain will begin to expect to feel fulfilled by creating rather than consuming. Gradually, the cycle shifts. Desire becomes a signal to create. Tension becomes fuel. You are no longer afraid of your own energy because you know that you will do something useful with it. This practice and the practice of redirection also rewire your self-concept and self-beliefs. Most men secretly believe that they are slaves to their impulses. But with each moment that you build with your energy rather than consume, you reaffirm to yourself that you are in command. Over time, this creates a quiet confidence that nothing can touch. You begin to respect yourself in a way that respect is an outside validation that you will never enjoy. Rewiring your brain is not about eliminating pleasure for good. It is about reclaiming your agency so that you can choose when and how you enjoy it, without addiction, without shame, without gratification. By mastering your energy, you become a man that is different. A man whose motivation does not rise and fall with each whim. A man whose purpose is stronger any craving. A man whose mind is clear enough to create something that will outlast him. This is the promise of this path. Not just a disciplined life, but a purposeful one. A life where you are the master of your energy, focus, and ultimately your life. Building a life of meaning, discipline, and legacy. All that you have been exposed to up to this point, sexual transmutation, sublimation, and rewiring your brain, brings you to this important destination, the life that means something. Purpose is not something you randomly stumble into. It is an intention that you commit to, define, and then put into motion through your repeated and habitual action. When you have a purpose that excites you and demands your best, your discipline no longer feels like deprivation. It feels like devotion. Think about the men in history or your own life that have inspired you the most. They were not comfortable. They were defined by what they sacrificed and built. They lived a greater life than the momentary drive for pleasure that they chose to sacrifice for their legacy. They dedicated themselves to falling under a mission that was clearly defined, whether it was a project, cause, or legacy. To lead a life like this requires that you first figure out what you are going to create. For some, that will mean building a business that will forever change the landscape of their industry. For others, that will be a body of work, books, art, ideas, that will leave a mark on culture. For others still, it will be a family or community that is stronger because of their influence as a leader. This kind of clarity doesn't just show up randomly. It happens with action. You have to be willing to try. You have to embrace failure. You have to pay attention to what ignites your passion and what feels meaningless. Once you have unearthed your purpose, you create the systems and rituals that support it. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline in your life is not suffering through life with a frown on your face. It is aligning your daily actions to your highest values. It is the quiet confidence that comes from doing what you said you would do. For example, you define rules for your energy. You set limits around your technology and screens so you are not distracted. You block time for deep work and creative thinking. You prioritize sleep, training, and nutrition to support your vitality. You cultivate rituals, like journaling, reading, meditating, that keep you aligned to your purpose. The confluence of purpose and discipline creates momentum. Small, trivial actions compound to become extraordinary results. You begin to see evidence of the man you are becoming. And here is what most people never understand. The life you create determines who you are becoming. Each time you make a choice to practice discipline instead of a snap decision, you are rebuilding the identity of a creator. Each time you choose to show up for your purpose in the world, you put down another brick to your legacy. Over time, this practice changes your relationship to pleasure itself. You become less reliant on constant pleasure because your own fulfillment comes from within. You begin to experience what psychologists refer to as the intrinsic motivation of engaging in meaningful work for the sake of doing meaningful work. That does not mean that you won't experience temptation. You will. The difference is that you will no longer be afraid of temptation. You will see it as that same ancient impulse we all have, your creative energy, wanting to express itself, and you will know how to interact with that force. When you live this way, you are a model for others. Others will notice you have a different energy. Your friends, your family, your colleagues will see you as grounded. You are grounded, you are clear. You will not be easily dislodged, for example, by circumstance other than what is crucial for your creative contribution. This is legacy. Not simply what you leave behind as an accomplishment, but how you affect all those you come into contact with. A disciplined and purposeful life does not just happen. It is arranged by thousands of tiny choices, all of which focus your energy on the things you find most important. And given the endless barrage of distractions and devices in the modern world, that is the most radical act you can take. Moving forward, becoming the master of your fate. By now you realize that sexual transmutation and sublimation are not only processes. This is a philosophy, a way of being that entirely alters your relationship to your own energy and purpose. The question is not if you have the potential to create something meaningful, but if you will act on that potential. Becoming the master of your fate begins with one simple decision to take total ownership of your life force, to not squander it on meaningless comforts, to not blame your distractions on your surroundings or culture or technology. This is the final and most important shift. You are no longer a passive actor in the story of your life. You are now the author. The first thing you can do is to develop your personal code, a series of commitments you will honor without question. Code doesn't have to be complex, but it has to be true, which is another way of saying it has to be honest. For example, I will use my energy to build and not to escape. I will require myself to a standard of integrity even when no one is looking. I will choose long-term satisfaction over short-term escape. I will create systems that protect my focus and my discipline. I will give my gifts freely, knowing that my legacy is built through service and contribution. As you write this code and then act on it, you build a form of self-respect that goes beyond any external validations. You begin to trust yourself because you see evidence day in and day out that you honor your word. The second step is to create environments and surround yourself with people that are congruent with your highest self. Your habits are informed by your spaces and the people you are around. If you are intent on staying true to your mission, you will want to curate these influences purposely. This may mean outgrowing relationships that keep you small. It might mean reimagining your workplace to limit distractions. It might mean finding mentors, communities, or masterminds that know excellence is the normal and mediocrity is challenged. The third step is coming to terms with the knowledge that mastery is never done. You will have setbacks. You will occasionally revert to old habits. But each time you renew your commitment to your principles, you will become stronger. Progress is not linear. Progress is the result of 1,000 recommitments. With every opportunity you have to choose transmute instead of indulge, you strengthen the tighter path of discipline. Over the years, this becomes who you are. Not a man who chased after every urge, but a man who could channel all of his energies into purpose. Not a man who is led by distraction, but a man who is devoted to creation. This is the ultimate reward of sexual transmutation: freedom. Freedom from addiction, freedom from regret, freedom from the shallow existence of endless consumption. Instead, you get to enjoy the rare fulfillment of knowing that you are using your gifts to your fullest potential, that you are contributing to something larger than yourself, that you are becoming the man that you were meant to be. So today, you are standing at a threshold. On one side is the known existence of distraction, instant gratification, and unmet potential. The other side is a life of creating focus, meaning, and legacy. No one can make this passage for you. No one can make this choice for you. If you are ready to take control of your destiny, it starts here. Own your energy. Turn it into creation. Challenge yourself to a higher standard. Never accept anything less than the life you are capable of creating, because your destiny isn't something that happens to you. It's something you are creating, moment by moment, choice by choice, action by action. It's time to start. If this resonated in you at a deeper level, don't let it be just another fleeting thought. Act on it today. The first way to act is to subscribe to this channel, so you never miss a guidance video that challenges you to rise higher. Share this video with someone you know, so they can reclaim their energy and live intentionally. Comment below with one commitment you make this week to practice sexual transmutation and live a life of discipline and legacy. Your words could ignite another's first step. And always remember, you have a fire in you, a fire strong enough to build empires or burn potential down. You choose. Do not accept mediocrity. You have greatness inside you. You have a choice to be in charge of your life starting now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the path to your best self.